I have a feeling Gene is a little disappointed this week, but we're talking about Krampus on Gene and Roger Talk Movies. Let's get right in.
Some movies,
Gene.
why? Why do I agree to this? Why, people? Why? I watched this last night. We shoot in the dungeon Saturday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could pan around and you could see our dungeon.
No, you don't want to do that.
It's a basement, typical basement, USA. It's full of junk. And that describes how I feel right now. It's just my mind is just filled with garbage, and junk, and nonsense. This movie has no sense of what it wants to be. Does it want to be serious? Does it want to be a horror comedy? Like, what does this movie want to be? And it's like I saw this with my 17-year-old and my wife. We're all reasonably intelligent. We think. But, if we weren't doing this for this podcast, we would have turned that thing off like 25 minutes in, if even not before, because there's none of the characters are likable. There's no reason to watch it. And it's just stupidly put together because about 2/3 of the way in, no, about half, I'll say half. Half of the way in, one of the characters, this grandma from the old country, right? She relays a story about Krampus. And it's the most beautifully stop motion animated thing. We were all commenting on how beautiful this stop motion sequence was. Clearly they put money into this movie. And it was awesome. And I was just thinking, if they had just got that stop motion sequence and put it at the beginning and then just played the rest of the movie would have just been 4 times as better just doing that. Because that was incredibly awesome stop motion. And then another part of the movie that we really liked was that there are these elves. Krampus has little helpers. And Krampus's helpers are these little elf thingies. And they have those coolest masks. And like when I lived in LA, I knew some people who worked in the industry. And I knew this girl and she made masks. And she had some of the coolest masks I've ever seen. And who knows if she was on this, but they were really cool masks. But outside of the great animated sequence explaining Krampus and the cool masks, this movie has got nothing going for it. It's you don't even know. You want to be serious, you want to be evil, you want to have this deep message of eternal damnation and eternal idiocy, or do you want to? What do you want? What does this movie want? It doesn't know. It doesn't have a sense of itself, and it has Toni Collette in it, for God's sakes. And then she is just wasted, just completely wasted talent in this thing. She doesn't. I'm banging on the table.
You are banging on the table.
You can hear it, and I just don't know where. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. What do you say?
So once again,
I'm putting out the garbage.
Gene is wrong.
I'm not wrong. Watch this movie at your own peril. You'll agree with this guy.
And actually,
not that guy.
Everything Gene said is valid. This movie does have a tonal problem for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't know what. Yeah, like I said.
And it seems to be cribbing from other movies as far as its style. Because of course, what were you reminded of immediately when they segued into that stop motion sequence, which is great? Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, right? We're doing a little Tim Burton thing. Coraline, Tim Burton kind of stuff going on here. And then
I can't diminish how cool that sequence is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like you're watching this piece of garbage, and then all of a sudden the garbage is gone, you've taken a shower, and you're watching something beautiful like in heaven. It's like, what? And then the sequence ends, and then you're back in the garbage.
And I think also
I just got a sigh. It's like,
it reminded me a lot of Gremlins in its beginning setup with the Black Friday Christmas rush craziness in the the thing, and then it segues to here's the nice happy family in their little beautiful home, and the guests are coming over, and so it has this kind of Gremlins vibe and this Nightmare Before Christmas vibe, and then this darker vibe when Krampus does show up because he's taking children away, and so it immediately kind of turns into, okay, where are we going with this movie? Because there's comedic elements there, and 2 of the main actors are more known as comedic actors than anything else. And what are they doing in there? What are we trying to do here? So
I know,
it really doesn't
and the whole thing with
understand.
the children, But Krampus comes and then he starts mutilating adults, and he freezes this delivery truck guy, and then, and he tries to take the other parents, and, they're just trying to be funny, making this political commentary, and, and there's a certain sense of meanness in the movie because some kids are really mean to these other kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I just want to turn it off because like you're not invested in the movie. There are no characters you really want to see do well. So what's the point?
I liked all the adult characters.
I thought they were all despicable. Every single one of them.
I liked them. They have good interplay with each other, especially the two male leads, where they obviously have their family, of course, and they obviously have he's the mother or the Toni Collette's sister's husband, whatever that means as far as the relation. I don't even know what that means.
They're brother-in-laws.
Yeah, but they have this competition where they don't really like each other, and there's a lot of back and forth with, well, I'm a hunter and I
got guns, I have a Hummer.
He's got his Hummer, and the other guy's like, well, I was an Eagle Scout and all this stuff. And so there's some decent interplay there where there's the comedy element, but it's surrounded by this darkness. But I don't hate this movie at all.
I hate it because the scene that you're talking about, I'm sorry I interrupted, but it's just like they're at the table, they're having Christmas dinner, and maybe it's supposed to be funny, but it's just not funny. Like they're lacking the timing or something. It's just not funny. I mean, get some Jordan Peele in here to work out the timing, or it's just not funny. It just doesn't work. Again, the movie doesn't know what it wants to be.
It is, again, tonally it's all over the place, but there's a charm. Gene obviously disagrees with me on this, but there's a charm because to me, it's
more of like an odor.
If you like a movie like Gremlins, this one's similar to that, darker than that, but similar to that.
No, Gremlins is one of those lightning in a bottle movies that's really good. It's put together well. It's edited well. The movie flows. The plot moves along. You like the characters. No.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the characters except for the children, but luckily they all get taken away by Krampus, so not a big problem there.
But see, then this again, Krampus is supposed to come and take away the kids, but no, Krampus takes away everybody.
No, that's the idea, right? And the old lady explained that he takes everyone and he leaves one person as like the witness to what had occurred. That was the whole point of the ball. So like when she was recounting her story, that entire village was gone, everyone except for her. And that's exactly what happens in this movie, because they comment that there's no one around, everyone is gone.
Then maybe she's the survivor in this one as well.
No, because
they're all in the ball at the end.
Well, and that's the weird part about the ending of the film, because Krampus was going to let that little boy survive, but the little boy had a different idea in mind.
No, he wanted to be with his parents, so he ended up in the ball too.
Yeah,
which is kind of a heavy message there. But again, this movie is nowhere prepared to relay a kind of a theme or a message like that. Well, this movie's got nothing going
and that Twilight Zone ending also is a tonal problem, because this movie ends kind of with, it maybe was just a dream. The kid was dreaming this whole time.
Yeah, and I hate movies like that. It's like, what's the point then if it's just a dream? Why?
But then you find out it wasn't.
It wasn't a dream. But of course, at the end, this is like my wife was saying things like, at the end, the family's going to be all together and they're going to be drinking hot chocolate. So what happens at the end? They're together drinking hot chocolate. And then she's like, at the end, and we haven't seen this, and she's at the end, that little bell's going to show up. And what shows up at the end? That little bell shows
up. I like how your wife's getting more into the horror film. She's
just calling it out. This is like 2/3 of the way movie. She's just calling out the ending, and then she's 3 for 3.
Yeah, well, let's hit her with Terrifier 3 and see if she's going to call out that ending.
We're not even talking about that piece of garbage. It's just humans getting chopped up.
But I think with Krampus,
it's like
one of the big problems with Krampus is exactly what Gene said. It doesn't really know what it wants to do. It's got a huge production value behind it. I'm not certain of the budget, but it looks great. Cinematography's good. The sets are good.
I can bring back one of my old themes I always talk about. Is that usually when high value, lots of money are thrown at horror movies, oftentimes that means lots big special effects, and almost guaranteed that means you're going to get an inferior product. Because whenever I've seen, what are we at, episode 110?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's like almost guaranteed. Horror movies where there's lots of special effects are going to be really bad, because horror survives on just old-fashioned storytelling, suspense, putting characters into precarious situations. You gotta like the characters. Just old-fashioned storytelling make the best horror. And we put special effects in there, and no, it falls flat. And that's this movie.
And I think it turns into a big studio has trouble making a good horror movie.
Yeah, right? I think for that very reason,
not designed for it.
Right, they're designed for the Marvel movies, which are special effects laden, and we're used to that. We love that, and it has its place, but it just doesn't have its place in horror.
Right. I think one of the beauties of horror, and all of the great horror film directors, usually their first movie is really good because they're a struggling director. Right. They're cobbling together as much of a budget as they can. They have to make some concessions to what their vision is, and 99% of the time those concessions make the movie better. A big budget doesn't have to do that.
Right. I think talking about what you just said is like the movie we reviewed last week, Substance. Directors, I believe it's their first movie. And that end sequence we talked about, the studio came to her and said, hey, you got to cut down that ending sequence. And she said no. And then that studio dropped her. And then a movie, I think, picked up that movie and then allowed her to show her movie per her vision. And it's great.
Well, and of course, by Gene saying that gives me another window to bring in Damien Leone with Terrifier 3, where he also didn't play by anyone's rules.
I do have to say this. I think I said this in the review of that movie, is that I was looking up the history of the Terrifier, and that character shows up in a movie that guy made like in 2018, something like that. So in essence, that guy has been making the same movie for the last 6 years. It's the same movie just over and over and over and over and over. So, of course. And why not? Because each movie makes him millions of dollars. More power to him, Right. But they're not good movies, though. They're just not.
Oh, no.
They follow the same formula.
Beautiful films.
No. I could go to McDonald's and watch them frying hamburger, and then there you go. That's about the same horror.
No. Beautiful stuff. But
no.
Again, I think with the studio backing this film, and even movies like What Lies Beneath, right? You had Harrison Ford, Michelle Pfeiffer. That movie, nobody even remembers that movie. It's big budget, but it's not scary. It's nothing. And this is kind of one of those problems
started on What Lies Beneath, because that movie for the first 2/3 has it going, because it's just storytelling, and then the last third they get into the special effects, in the pond. And
you're one of the few people that remembers anything about that movie. But
I just remember watching that thing, and now we're talking about What Lies Beneath. Because it's seriously, the first 2/3, watch that movie instead of this garbage. But the first 2/3, it's like, whoa, that's you're involved, and there's some scenes it's like you're really on the edge of your seat. But then the movie just falls apart.
Right.
Again, it gets into that big budget Hollywood, and they got to put in special effects. And then you're wondering, like, where's this movie going? This movie didn't have that before.
But the beauty of Krampus
I just got to sigh.
There's like 100 other Krampus movies. So I certainly could send Gene down the rabbit hole of some super low budget one where maybe they had to do more.
Yeah. It's like my wife. It's like we were looking at Krampus movies, and there's like Krampus Part 14. So we're like, Roger, what Krampus is it? So you said, then you had to clarify, it's the Tony Collette.
Tony Collette one.
The Tony Collette Krampus. Yeah, because there's like 100 Krampus movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like the Krampus, vacation trip, and the Krampus in Europe, and Krampus, goes to Disneyland. There's a million of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which one
around.
is it?
Yeah, he gets around.
Yeah. So yeah. So we're good. We're done talking about
well,
this
I think, Gene, you are done talking about it. We are definitely split on this film. Gene obviously is not recommending this on any level.
No level. This movie's, in a way, it was kind of cool. It was a chance for me, my 17-year-old, my wife, to sit. My 13-year-old, 2 minutes into it, he's like, I'm out of here. But sorry, the other day he got mad at me. His 14-year-old.
Oh,
2 minutes in the movie, is I'm out of here. But yeah. So it was good, bonding time. So we could bond in our unity of hatred. So yeah, and my wife kept talking. It's like, oh, I'm really tired. I know I can't finish it, but then she finished it.
Okay. Yeah. So you didn't like the little gingerbread men with the nail gun?
Like I said, masks, great. That little animated sequence, dear Lord in heaven, that is great. The sequence with the gingerbread men shooting the nail gun is awesome. And then does he shoot like a little flamethrower at him, or what?
Well, he had his shotgun, and that caught him on fire because he blew up their nail gun.
Oh yeah, one of them they end up burning to death. And it's just great. So okay, see, this movie has elements, but it's just not enough to save it.
Yeah,
like that one sequence. Oh my god, that's so great.
Yeah. So I would say give it a shot.
Three scenes. Right? 3 scenes. Or do you count this way? I don't know, whatever.
But I would say give it a shot. Obviously, it's on streaming now, so you can be like Gene's kid and just bail if you don't like it.
Yeah, $3.99 rental. Who cares?
If you got Peacock, I think it's playing on that one. So
yeah, we just Apple TV $3.99.
But Gene and I are going to do some other Christmas-themed horror movie next week. We don't really have a solid idea. We're going to try to track down the Dan Haggerty extravaganza Elves, where he plays a department store.
It's really
Santa.
old. And we're talking about it. We're going to try Elves, but it may not be accessible.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it's out there.
And Gene may turn it off after 5 minutes and say we've got to do something else. But
you're giving me your word that it's okay, because you know me. Right?
Well, you know me though, Gene.
Yeah, I do know you. That's kind of scary,
right? So
because you recommended this Krampus.
Well,
and you like Terrifier 3.
I loved it. Terrifier 3 was the best film.
But we agreed that on our hatred of the latest Alien movie.
Yes.
Yeah, that movie, especially when that little baby came out. It's
oh
like,
my God.
Are you
that movie
me?
I want to burn every copy.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We will catch you next week.
Yeah. Elves.
Bye.